Papist. Chapranas. Certain circumstances. Minute one.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining in the webinar. We'll be starting in a minute. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. We'll be starting in a minute. So for today's webinar, I'll just brief you about the webinar a little. I'll be hosting it. My name is Akshit Mathur. We have a guest, Mr. Chandar Madan, who is the founder for Nursify. Hi, welcome, sir. Welcome to the
Thank
webinar.
you.
So before we even start the webinar, I would want everyone to be on mute in the webinar. I would welcome everyone to ask their questions within the chat box, and if at all they have any questions, they can unmute themselves at the end of the webinar. We will be happy to take those questions and guide you through the process. So before we even begin, I'll just introduce Mr. Madan to everyone present here. Mr. Madan, who is the ex-CFO for HP, is now has founded a healthcare recruitment platform which connects healthcare professionals from around the world to the hospital and global organizations around the world. So we are helping the candidates on one hand and hospitals on the other to make sure we have a better healthcare industry in years to come. Thank you so much, Mr. Madan, for joining and taking in time for this webinar. So any words before we start putting in questions for you?
No, I think it's good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, everyone. It's indeed a pleasure to get on these webinars and answer your questions. I think it's a healthcare. There can't be a better time. The world needs almost like 10 million nurses all across the world, and it's very fortunate for nurses from emerging countries, India, Africa, Philippines, Nepal, UAE, wherever you are, to go and work in the Western world, UK, Australia, USA, for that matter, and Canada as well. So I think, and those of you who are in emerging markets, go to UAE first. So I think there's tremendous opportunities, a lot of demand. You are at the right place at the right time. And of course, we will talk about the opportunities and challenges, but I think there's a great opportunity for all of you. And take advantage of that, because the demand is very, very high, and you are you will be welcome with open arms in most of these markets, because there's a shortage of nurses all across the world. So over to you, Akshay.
Thank you. So Mr. Madan, my first question, which I feel is one question that has absolute value in terms of anybody going abroad. So what do you think are the challenges faced by healthcare professionals specifically when they're going and working in a new country?
Sure. So I think a couple of things. First of all, there is a huge knowledge gap between wherever you are to which country you're going, right? So there are quite a few myths that the immigration process is very difficult. You got to pay a lot of money to agents. And there are myths about, of course, about the country and the culture. So first of all, just to let you know, for the knowledge gap, you can reach out to Nursify. In most of the places like UK, Australia, USA, and Canada for that matter, or even UAE for that matter, I think except US, I think the process is very, very simple. You need to be, you need to have the license registration, the English proficiency test, and write education qualification and all the papers like medical sector for the visa. I don't think it's very difficult, right? That's number one. Number two, the cultural challenges, because the international culture is maybe different from your home country. So I think that's another challenge that people face. But again, as I said, Nursify is your trusted partner. You can reach out to us. Our team will typically train you before you leave for the respective country. And as I said earlier, most of these recruitments are free. Okay, do not pay any money to the agents. If you need any help, yes, for IELTS, OET training or NCLEX training, yeah, there is some minor amounts that you have to pay to training company. But for recruitment, I don't think you should be paying any money to any company. And Nursify is never in the business of charging money and will never ask you for money, for recruitment. So I think don't be part of the scam that charges money, or don't be befooled by scamsters that are charging money. I think you should be able to find a job at the desired location very, very easily. UK is a little slow right now. That's probably another challenge. But for those of you who are eligible, US is, going great. Australia is going great. Germany is hiring like crazy. And I think there are plenty of opportunities in Gulf countries. So just to summarize for challenges, I think knowledge gap is one big one. Cultural differences at number 2. And number 3, I think because of knowledge gap, a lot of people are being befooled by agents. Don't be a fool. Reach out to us. Our teams will be able to help you as much as possible. And last challenge, I think, which you should probably easily overcome, is prepare. Okay. For example, UK is very slow right now, but will never remain slow forever, right? Will not remain slow forever. My guess, I'm not an economist or anything, or I don't make geopolitical predictions, but I think UK will open up after December, maybe early part of next year. And once it opens up, you should be ready. You should be prepared prepared with your OET, prepared with your NMC registration, for example, for UK. If you're going to US, NCLEX, etc., be prepared, and so that when the opportunity comes, you are ready to roll. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Madan, for such an insightful answer on this. I'm sure there will be a lot of other challenges that there are, and we can talk about them in later part of the stage. But when we talk, what do you think, Mr. Madan? How can healthcare workers effectively manage the language barriers in a multicultural healthcare environment that they face today?
I think for any language or culture, the best way is to immerse in that, right? What I mean by immersion is, make friends, speak. So, for example, if you're going to UK or US, the best way is to make them friends. So, I'll give you my own example. When I first landed for a corporate job in HP, landed in Hong Kong, and or I think then later on to Singapore, and none of them understood my mother tongue, which was Hindi at that point in time, and I didn't understand their mother tongue, which was Chinese at that point in time. So the only way of communicating was English. I think, and the more I started to speak to them, the more I started to get in the environment, the more I started to, engage with them, by making friends. The bottom line is speak, listen, engage as much as possible. That's what I call immersion. Okay. I think the best way to learn the language or accent or slangs, whatever you want to call it, is submerge yourself in that. Of course, I'm not going to say how to crack IELTS and OET, etc. Of course, that there are various ways to do that. But to me, the cultural immersion is one of the best way to be part of them and to understand the lingo, if I may say it that way. Yeah. And I think that's always the best case, for you to engage and to learn about any language or any culture for that matter. If you still need help, we have partner companies. EAS Tutor can give you tips on training, English learning, or language learning for that matter. I think we will be able to help you. So if you need any help, reach out to the team members who are on the call, and drop your questions, and we should be able to guide you through as well. But I think if you need help, there are always ways to reach out to Nursify and the partner EAS Tutor who can help you with the training. But long and short, I would say immerse yourself in the environment in such a way that you start to think in the language, right? That's the best way, and that's what we do. So that's probably the best way of adapting and learning any language and overcome any challenges, if I may call it that way.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Madan, for such an insight there as well. Now talking about, as you rightly mentioned, that immersing in the language is something that a person needs to be very well versed of. Why do you think? I really want to move ahead and go to the part wherein a nurse or a healthcare professional needs to be IELTS or OET trained. Why is passing the IELTS or OET crucial for healthcare professionals who are aiming to work internationally right now?
I think it's very important for any country to accept immigrants is that they are able to speak the language. So, for example, as I said, English is considered to be the global language all across the world, especially in UK and Europe, UK and USA or Australia for that matter. So I think the reason why it's important is any of the country hospitals would like to ensure that you have a certain proficiency level in English, and the best way to assess that is IELTS and OET. So it is very important. I think in some parts of the world, like US, they accept IELTS, TOEFL, OET. I think some parts accept PTE as well. Same is the case for Australia. UK mostly rely on IELTS. So I think English proficiency test scores are way to measure proficiency in English language, and that seems to be the global common language, that is very widely accepted, and is a common global language that people are very used to. So that's why it's important. So if you have not done IELTS or OET, for nurses, I think OET is much easier, and the nurses should go for that. IELTS probably bit tough for the nurses, but I've seen a lot of nurses cracking IELTS as well. So long and short again is the proficiency test is kind of way to measure communication skills that the nurses need to have before they land in any Western country.
Okay. Thank you so much. And as you rightly mentioned that some of the nurses choose IELTS exam and some of them choose the OET exam. What are the main differences between the two, if I have to ask that? And because we've been taking a lot of webinar, and that is one question that needs to be addressed every time, that what are the main differences between IELTS and OET exam, and how should a healthcare professional working there should choose between one?
Yeah, so first of all, both are English proficiency tests. Both are measured and assessed by an independent organization. So I think IELTS is owned by British Council and IDP, depending on where you are in the world. and OET is governed by OET governance body out of Australia. So both are English tests. For healthcare professionals, especially for nurses, I would strongly recommend that you go for OET because OET is a lot easier, at least 5 to 10, not 10, 5 times easier than IELTS. Okay. Both are English proficiency tests. One, IELTS is very generic in terms of the context and the kind of questions you will get. OET is very, very specific to healthcare, and it will have the medical terms. So I would say choose OET versus IELTS. That's probably my recommendation because it's easier to crack, and for nurses, it's in their own medical language, it's their own lingo. So I think it's easy to understand for nurses. That's what I would recommend. But yeah, I mean, both are English proficiency tests, and one is, more attuned to healthcare than the other, which is more a generic test. Again, I said, I would recommend to most nurses and the healthcare professionals to go for OET than IELTS.
Thank you so much. I'm sure this is helpful for a lot of nurses here. And as we progress here, and again, very, very, very important and a generic question on IELTS and OET, that how do these exam test the communication skills that are essential in the real healthcare professional world? Like, what are the parts of it, and how exactly a person should be prepared for it?
Yeah, so I think like any language test, there's listening, reading, writing, speaking test. Okay, and I must give you a disclaimer right in the beginning itself that when you are preparing for IELTS, OET, IELTS or OET or any English proficiency exam, it is given that you know how to speak in English or you know English language. Okay, preparing for that is not really a foundation level course that you do to start from, I won't say alphabets, but reading English or writing English or speaking English. Okay, so there is a basic level of knowledge. It's assumed that you have it. Okay, and then there are 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, speaking. Speaking, of course, is a test that you'll be asked question in a small interview, and you need to answer those questions in an appropriate way to test your speaking skills. But for reading, writing, and listening, there are specific strategies that are given. For example, in the listening, you'll be given a tape or audio file or MP3 file that you need to listen to and then answer questions. Okay, so I'm not the IELTS teacher or OET teacher, but I think for each of the sections, there are specific strategies to attack the questions to score desired band, which is IELTS 7, which is a band 7 if you take IELTS overall, and band B if you take OET overall. Except writing, which is C+ for OET and 6.5 for IELTS. So 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, speaking, and speaking is a live practice test done with the interviewer, and writing will require you to write on a topic. But for each of these, there are tips and strategies available. Once again, if you need any help, you can reach out to our partner company, eastudio.com, and they'll be able to help you out. But yeah, but one thing you need to be clear that when you're preparing for IELTS, you are not going through a foundation level course, but it is assumed that you have a basic level of English, and you then ace the tips and strategies for for taking the exam.
Okay, okay, thank you so much. Of course, these four parts that can be useful for both IELTS and OET. I'm sure this would be again helpful for all the nurses and all the participants be here. And as we progress here, Mr. Madan, the second step for anybody to go ahead and be after being eligible is to prepare the resume. So resume writing is something that I would like to cover here, right? Wherein what do you think are because you screen a lot of candidates, you have seen a lot of resumes, you know the first process for any nurse to go ahead is to have a good resume. Wherein what do you think are the key information that a healthcare professional should include in their resume for the global organizations?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and before the hospitals can meet you for interview, the very first thing they see is your resume. So that's your brand statement, that's your profile statement, that is the information about you. Okay, so make sure you give the best one, right? It's like going on a first date, right? And you are prepared, you're well groomed, you are well dressed, to put your best foot forward, right? And the first time when you look at when the hospital is going to look at you as an individual, as a nurse, as a candidate, is they look at your resume. So make sure you do the best one, okay? And I'm not saying you need to have very colorful, cursive writing fonts and da-da-da-da, okay? But make sure you have the basic information there. Things like, where have you worked? What are your strengths? And within that, let's take an example, right? So let's say you are a theater nurse, right? If you're an operation theater nurse, talk about your education. Start with the experience with the latest one and say, hey, I worked in ABC Hospital as a scrub nurse. These are my roles and responsibilities. And I've handled, orthopedic surgeries, generic surgeries. If you want to get the names, you can mention the names and the kind of equipments you've handled. Followed by the next next experience, where you could be a PSU nurse or a recovery nurse. Talk about the title, job, what's the nurse to patient ratio, maybe how many bedded hospital it is, the name of the hospital with, what's the strength of the hospital in terms of beds. And then you talk about your roles and responsibilities, the cases you have managed, and equipments you have handled. Okay, so like this, and at the end, you conclude that with, a few references and, other information, the kind of tests you have passed, like OET, IELTS, NCLEX. You may want to mention scores as well. Now, I see a lot of resumes which are, and more importantly, grammar alignment has to be perfect. Okay, like on a first date, you won't wear shabby clothes, and you won't wear, you try not to groom. That's a disaster in itself, right? So make sure that your resume reflects your personality, your experience, your skill sets, and of course your education background in a very, very clear way. Doesn't matter if it's not colorful, doesn't matter if it is simple Word document, but make sure this information is there. You'll be surprised that 80% of the time, okay, you will get rejected or selected based on how you put up your resume. Okay, so if you want to take a chance, I mean, I've seen a lot of resumes, not aligned, are part of a format which even says, please include 6 points for your experience. Even that is also written there.
Oh.
What a suicidal note. You are basically writing a suicidal note if you just leave the format like that. Okay? Because nobody is going to like and take the resume and give you a chance if you are so lazy even to change the format. Okay. Yeah, and in some situations, people write all the experience first, then roles and responsibility. No, that's a bad idea. I think after each and every job position, you should write roles and responsibility, cases managed, and the equipments managed. That way, uh, the employer has a very clear idea of your skill set, your experience, and who they are getting. Okay, it's as simple as that.
Okay.
Of course, don't try to include flowery language and cursive, hopefully not cursive fonts, hard to read fonts. It's never a good idea. Picture can be included, but don't have a picture of the beach. Have a more formal picture as an idea, and write in simple English. Doesn't matter even if your English is not good. If you write in simple English, the way I explained, in a simple format, 90% is going to go through.
Okay, thank you so much. I really wanted to know, and I hope you have answered the next question that I was willing to ask here. Like, what are the common mistakes? And do you feel how do if I mean not effectively highlight the clinical experience, but if I'm an orthopedic nurse, if I'm a ophthalmic nurse, is there any effective way do you feel that I should highlight my experience or skills on a resume? I'm sure cases handled, equipment handled is one thing. Any more suggestions that you would like to give to the audience here?
Yeah, I think first of all, let's talk about maybe some of the not so great resumes, and I think we should avoid that. So as I said, people, some of the resumes I've seen, the bad ones. Okay, let me just maybe talk about that. Okay, you use different kinds of font. Your resume is not structured. Information is missing. You have a gap and you forget to talk about the gap. Address the gap, there and then, and have a very, very clear resume. I think that's clean, crisp, to the point. Resumes will definitely go a long way than resumes which are cluttered, not formatted properly, and are all over the place. I think, imagine that interviewer, or let's say screener, think from a screener point of view. HR person only has 3 minutes to go through your resume. If you do not contain information in the resume that impresses the recruiter in 3 minutes, okay, I'm saying a bit too much. Okay, 3 minutes is probably even a lot. They are less than 30 seconds. Okay, and if you can't impress the screener in the first 3 minutes, you're gone. Okay, so make sure it is properly organized. It's in plain, simple English, and it is very well structured along the guidelines I just mentioned. Okay. To Dakshit's point, if you have let's say a specific area to be highlighted, I think then be upfront. Okay. With each and every experience. So for example, in the first one, if you're an orthopedic theater, in the first job, mention there. In the second one, if you're an ophthalmic, or third one, cardio, each of these specialties should be highlighted through the process of cases managed and equipment handled. If you're not able to do that, especially for theater, you are not going to make it to the final list. Let me tell you, the nurses' positions are getting very, very competitive. a nurse that would have worked, a profile that would have worked a year ago does not work anymore, because for every single profile, there are 10 best resumes available. Okay, so you are competing, the competition has gone up. This is especially for UK. Okay, same is the case for US as well. So I think the competition is getting a little bit tough. The idea is to make sure that you can have a resume that's eye-catching, that's clear, that's crisp, for interviewer to make your case. Okay, so have it, make sure that your resume speaks for itself and is along the lines I just mentioned. And if you are lethargic or lazy and don't write the information completely, and it raises more questions, then I think no point.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I with a lot of excitement, I would like to move in with the next part. Once our resume gets shortlisted, we go to the next part, and which includes interview, right? Because that's, I believe, the next step. So Mr. Madan, how do you think a healthcare professional should introduce themselves during that interview? Because I mean, we get a lot of queries regarding that. So I would like your enlightenment a little there. Like, how should they introduce themselves? Because that's the basic part that they need to start with.
Yeah, so I think that's for any interview, not just healthcare. I think if you are, if you're introducing yourself, let's say you are a nurse or a doctor or whatever. Let's start with nurse. So you can say, my name is Chandar. I have so much of years of experience. I belong to XYZ place, whatever the place is, and talk about your qualities. That I'm a passionate nurse who focuses on patients' safety and service level with great amount of empathy. That's more than enough. Okay.
Okay.
Keep it simple, keep it short. Say who you are. Maybe talk a little bit more about what you have done in terms of educational in terms of educational background and professional experience, and talk about a couple of strengths, and I think you are fine. No need to narrate stories. The other important thing, most interviews for international openings are happening virtually. So I'd like to maybe talk about, a few points about that. Make sure you have a good internet connection. That's the only way for the interviewer to be in touch with you. Yeah, that's the only way for interviewer to be in touch with you. So make sure you have internet connection and good internet connection. Look into the camera all the time so that it seems like you are looking into the eye of the interviewer. Make sure you have a clean background. I've seen some of the interviewees, have clothes hanging in the background, kids floating around. Somewhere you're sitting in the kitchen and somebody's cooking in the background. And I think all those should be avoided. Very clean background. And if you're not sure about the background, blur the background, or like Akshint and I are use Nursify. You can use Nursify background. Use any background for that matter. Okay. So you're welcome to use Nursify if you like to. Okay. I think providing a clean environment background, being there on time, looking into the camera, not somewhere else. I think goes a long way in terms of, simple interview etiquettes, and make sure internet connection is working. Don't never be late. Okay. That's another suicidal crime, if I may call it that way. Um, you know, if you're late, you anyway lost half the hope. Okay. So there's some etiquettes. I'm sure there are more questions around this, which we will take up, but I thought I'll just kind of brief you guys so that, you are well prepared.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Madan here. Now, I think, and because we've been dealing with the healthcare for a lot of times, dealing with a stressful situation and giving the best quality of patient care is something a healthcare professional needs to be doing on a daily basis. But then how to actually demonstrate to an interviewer that they are doing this on a daily basis, and how to actually demonstrate that they are able to handle stressful situations in an interview. um, like, what are the key ways that they can discuss about both these things together?
Yeah, I think to demonstrate any example or demonstrate any experience, whether it's dealing with stressful situation or a critical case or anything, I think share examples, share stories. Okay. Stories that are authentic, stories that are believable, stories that are real. Okay. There's no other magic formula. Okay. So if there is a stressful situation, maybe your surgeon or doctor has shouted at you, or you had a bad day, or you had a patient who's not behaving or not cooperating. Use stories, use examples, use experiences. I think it will go a long way in convincing a interviewer that you are real. Okay. I think so. It can be a stressful. It can be a stressful situation. It can be a example of a critical case. It could be maybe the time when you made a mistake. Use real examples. Be authentic. Be yourself. I think I can't tell you more than this. I mean, this will usually go a long way, and most people understand we are all human beings, right? So we can make mistakes as well.
Okay, thank you so much. In the meantime, I would request my audience, if they have any questions, they can put it in the chat box. We'd be happy to take them, and we'll be very happy to guide you on that. But Mr. Madan, I'm sure these are again the great examples of how to conduct a good interview. But what are the common mistakes a person can make? Not just there in the online interview, but what are the common mistakes that we should avoid, a healthcare professional should avoid during an interview?
Yeah, I think so. Face-to-face interviews may have little different issues than online, but let me just kind of say it, maybe give you some common areas, right? So first of all, I think punctuality is very, very important. It is not safe to assume that being late by 2 minutes or 1 minute is okay. It's not okay. Okay. Because you are wasting others' time. So I think be punctual. If you are using an online method of communicating, then I think if you are doing online, make sure that your background, all the things I talked about, right? Clear background, clear background. I think good internet connection, and also sometimes the question is asked, have you made any mistake, right? Or give me an example when you made a mistake, and most people say, I haven't made any mistake. I mean, come on, we're all human beings, right? So everybody makes a mistake. I think you can give examples of a mistake by talking about a minor thing that may have happened during your student days, and make it, or talk about a very minor mistake like logging errors, as long as it's not fatal, right? So the whole idea is, being there on time, being prepared, grooming yourself, that shows readiness of on your part. Being there on time, as I said. If it is an online interview, internet connection should be working, and all the equipments and infrastructure should be working. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just be yourself. Okay. Don't try to fake an accent. Don't try to show what you are not. Okay. Because if you try to be what you're not, after third or fourth question will be caught. Okay. Because the interviews are smart. Yeah. So it's like when a salesperson comes for an interview and you ask them, what's the target you deliver? You say 200%. Okay. And then you ask them, what's the number of calls you've made? He says 4 a day. You know the answer, right? So you're caught very quickly, because either you're so lucky or you must be a charming, glamorous salesperson who everybody wants to buy it from, which is not the case, right? So, and the last one I would say is look for cues, because the interviewer is trying to help you. If you're a nurse, they want you more than you want them. Okay, so they're trying to help you. So look for cues in the question when they're asking you questions, and I think don't miss those. Usually, I think that's probably few tips I can give to avoid few mistakes. I think Lalit has a question. He raised his hand.
Sure. I'm sure, and we've been getting a lot of questions here as well. So, Mr. Madan, I mean, very quickly, I would like to ask you these questions, and then we can quickly understand everybody else's questions as well. For nurses, what is important, IELTS academic or general?
IELTS academic, definitely. That's what is accepted by NMC. So I think that should be the case. Yeah.
Okay. And then there is somebody who's asked that how to manage it when they're not confident in the interview, and when they're not confident in an answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that different people have different situations. Okay, smile first of all. I think it can solve half the problems. No, I think honestly, if you don't know the answer, say you don't know. That's fine. Okay. Or you can say, yeah, I didn't prepare for this one, or whatever. I think just be honest. Smiling will solve half the problem, but I think being yourself, being honest, being honest is always good, and being yourself is always good. And if you don't know the answer, just say you don't know the answer.
Okay. And then there are students who are asking then that they have done their nursing. They have worked as a care assistant in London and UK and have done their NVQ level as well in UK as well. If we have any opportunity for them as a care assistant.
Quite frankly, the care assistants, if you have experience as a care assistant and you want to go as a registered nurse, very tough right now, because there are a lot of registered nurses who are available for every single job that's available in UK. So unfortunately, I know you're not going to like the answer. If you are in the care home sector or home care sector, stick to that for now. Okay. But if you're really good, try it. If you are really good, you'll be able to find. But I'll be candid with you. There are a lot of opportunities lot of candidates available, you know, for a lot of candidates available for the jobs the UK has. I assume this question was more for UK. Instead, my advice to you would be, you know, try looking for other countries. Okay, for example, Germany needs a lot of care home workers, but you need to know German. Australia needs a lot of care home workers. Canada needs a lot of care home workers, and your English and OET results will be applicable there. I think try there because UK is going to remain very competitive for a while. Yeah, and there are questions around NHS and private. Um, I think the private are still hiring, but the lot of these positions are being filled by nurses who are already available in UK itself. Okay, so they're hiring, but they're being filled by local candidates. Very few private hospitals are hiring nurses from overseas because there's enough funnel available locally. And NHS, my guess is most likely early next year it will start to open up and start to hire again. So I think it's a couple of more months wait.
Okay. We've been getting a lot of questions here as well. So should people be worried or if they have given their OET exam a year back and they have a worry of OET exam being expired? So they need to be worried of that?
Yeah, if your OET is 1 year old, you still have 1 more year. Hopefully by Jan it will open up, so you should not worry. But if your OET is expiring anytime after, let's say June, July of next year, you should be fine. Anything before that, I strongly recommend you appear for it again.
Okay, I believe we've covered almost every question, and it's been a great webinar so far. Any other questions from the audience? Because I believe all of your questions are answered. Yes, there are opportunities in the private hospitals. UK is slow. NHS will be hiring very soon. These are the key takeaways that you can take from the last of the webinar. Be prepared is something being
There was one more question. I think there was some maybe technical issue with Akshit. So there was one more question around mental health nurses. I think a lot of tips that I mentioned will apply to mental health as well. Again, you know, just make sure you're able to demonstrate your experience, demonstrate your, you know, demonstrate that you have the right fit. You are the best team player. You are the one who can, who can adapt to the culture that is, adapt to the culture that, the hospital requires. So, no major difference. But the whole idea is just be yourself, give your best, and you should be fine. There were other questions around
Australia.
What's the requirement to apply for Australia? I think you need to have, like UK, you need to have the APRA, which is Australian Nursing Council registration, and of course need to clear, need to clear the IELTS and OET as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Madan, for your time today. I mean, I'm sure this has been insightful, not just for us, but for a lot of nurses around the world. We've got love from Sri Lanka. We've got a lot of candidates from Nepal as well, and then Indians, of course. So for any queries, if anybody has, please drop in your queries at hello@nursify.co.uk. We'd be happy to help you with anything. We have got a lot of partners in terms of preparing you for international opportunities. Anything from your interview preparation to resume writing to preparing you for IELTS or OET, everything can be covered. It's just a matter of putting in the right kind of effort from today itself, right? Healthcare has immense opportunities and a lot of opportunities that you should try in for. And that's the only thing that needs to be done as of now, right? So thank you so much, Mr. Madan. If there are any last words, we can do, and otherwise we thank you from every audience.
So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great evening, and wish you all a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.